Good evening, Galaxy fans. My name is Mike Gray. I'm the columnist. I cover both LAFC and the Galaxy for the Striker. Here tonight to join me, my faithful co-host, the one and only Alex Ruiz. Alex is our beat writer for the LA Galaxy. Man, how you doing, Alex?
I'm good, Mike. How are you doing today?
Well, I just had some Celsius, so I had my usual 5 or 6 seconds of spazzing out. Dude, I was actually getting my car towed. I got some maintenance I got to do, but yeah, right when I got the call to go unlock my car, that's when the Klein news broke out. And dude, I'm speechless. I've been covering this team a long time. I never thought this day would come, but here we are, Alex. We're living in a post Chris Klein existence. How's it feel, man?
I mean, I guess it's interesting. It's historic. I mean, at the start of this season, I said that this Galaxy season was going to be a historic one when we heard about the start of the boycott. And turns out it has been historic, but for the wrong reasons, right? This team is at their worst start in franchise history. Again, we've kind of seen a bit of the boycott and its effects at the start of the season. And yet ACB come back. So definitely was always going to be a year that was going to have some major significance. And seeing Chris Klein being the first major firing that we've seen on the LA Galaxy. Personally, I thought he would have lasted the whole year. If we remember correctly, he said in an open letter to season ticket members he was gonna basically decide his fate on the form of the team, on it if they made the Western Conference semifinals again. Right now, how they're playing and their pace of how many points they have until the end of the season isn't looking like they'll be in the playoff spot. So, 14 games in the season, the Galaxy are without a president. It's interesting times, definitely. And again, tomorrow there's a game, so we got to move on quickly as we'll get to see the first game in the post Klein era.
Well, technically, it was supposed to last till the end of the season, right? But it all started with him showing up at the press conference after Saturday's game, and it was a little weird. But we were talking on the podcast trying to figure it out, and what me and by the way, Sophie was amazing on our last podcast. You should listen to it. But yeah, it was me, Alex, and Sophie, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. And Klein, we what we're guessing is that Klein was, calming Vanny down and telling him, "All right, relax. Like I'm not going to fire you. Everything's fine." Because I mean, we're living in a post Chris Klein existence, so let's just be real about it. In a way, this team is screwed. Four out of the next 5 games for the Galaxy are on the road. They follow that up with the Rose Bowl Trafico, and then they play Philadelphia at home. They have one home game against Sporting Kansas City, and then they have 6 just difficult games. And so, how many points are you going to get out of that, Alex? And then, this summer, if you look at the strength of schedule, the Galaxy actually have one of the toughest remaining schedules in the league, and this is a team that has a summer transfer ban, and so in a way, results wise, we were trying to say, can the Galaxy be saved this year? And we're sitting here going like, they need to win a few games before we even say that, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like Chris Klein kind of, having him gone in a way, and obviously the way the fans reacted to him being back for another year, was part of I guess, the noise that, Greg Vanny and some of the other Galaxy people have kind of been talking about. So you kind of have that kind of off your shoulders a little bit. Again, you know, Chris Klein isn't responsible for the results on the field. If we're going to be honest, obviously, the roster construction and the sanctions, for sure, you can put that on him. But the form of the team is more or less on the shoulders of Greg Vanny and the players. And we got to see if there is an effect really there from the players and the team this Wednesday, right? Tomorrow to go into RSL. It's going to be a difficult game. Again, this team has really struggled on the road, just one win in, I think, 6 road games this season. So it's just good. No, they haven't won a game. They only have one goal in their last 6 road games. Excuse me. Still not a good stat, by the way. Anyway, but nonetheless, again, we kind of need to see what's going to happen with this Galaxy team, how they go down the stretch. Obviously, the fans boycotted, supporter groups boycotted, not going to games this season. They were really honed in on getting Chris Klein out. We know Angel City Brigade were the first ones, I guess, to kind of blink in this boycott. Went back but LA Riot Squad, Galaxians, and all the other groups, they still remain away from the stand. So this game against Sporting Kansas City, which I believe is June 21st, so it's gonna be in some time, but I expect it to be a decent crowd. I mean, we've seen maybe what 15, 16, 17,000 people at the last couple of Galaxy home games. I expect this one to, be a completely different atmosphere. I expect this to be, I don't want to say, like a celebration because I don't, wish for people getting fired, but in a way, the fan base is kind of going to celebrate that because they've been asking for that for a while. So again, it doesn't really solve a lot of the problems. It's definitely like something major and a major step. I'm not going to say it's like a little band-aid or anything because, again, this is the thing that fans have been demanding for a while now. But it's definitely something, I guess, in the right direction for change and something that's very much needed with the LA Galaxy on both on and off the pitch, I'd say.
Yeah, let's get to a few comments. Where do we go? Man, they're coming so quickly. I can't even keep hold of them. All right. Logan Jones, or excuse me, Will I am Bo. Sophie was the bomb. Yes, Sophie was amazing. Let's scroll up a little bit. Brandon Berman, today was a beautiful day. So happy I'll be back at the digs. Dude, I hear you, buddy. We're doing the journalism thing and trying to, we're trying to go have a game plan here, but just to put it, I don't know how to even express it, but guys, when we all congress at that stadium next month and we finally all, and I mean, when I mean all, I mean the casual fans, I mean the supporters, the Riot Squad, ACB, Galaxians, Outlaws, everyone, Ghost Ultras, we're finally going to all be in the same stadium. I mean, I don't know about you, Alex, but like I have so many friends from across the way and, press box, everything. And, what have we been talking about? How miserable it's been at Galaxy Games this year, how the atmosphere has been dead, how none of a lot of my friends haven't even been at games, And so for me, just it's going to be so cathartic just to have the fans and just to have everyone back, not only just for us, we can be selfish about it, but imagine the players, I mean, think about Chicharito. Like he, part of the issue with this boycott is, he's one of those guys who took the boycott on his shoulders. You can tell him that it's other issues, but you can't tell the players not to have hearts. And Javi's an example of a guy who really took all that on his shoulders, and he's going, okay, if we start winning games, the fans are going to come back, regardless of whose fault it is. And so, there's a lot of good things to be coming out of this, and this boycott isn't going to, or excuse me, this podcast isn't to dance on Chris Klein's grave or anything like that. We don't want to do anything. We want to be respectful, but what we are super happy about is that and Alex, you're online. I mean, there's literally people dancing in the streets right now, man. People are happy.
Yeah, and again, obviously the boycott started because Chris Klein was going to stay at his position of LA Galaxy president. So kind of having that, that boycott, I guess, kind of work in a way, right? It shows that the investment of the fans, their lack of attendance of the supporters kind of did affect the team. And let's be honest, like we mentioned, Mike, the atmosphere is definitely not there. Dignity Health Sports Park compared to last season is definitely a notch down below what I've experienced in past game days. So you can kind of combine with that and the team just not being in a good team this season, not being able to put away their chances, not being able to get these winning results. It makes everything worse. And Chris Klein was the first domino to fall here. We'll see if there are any others. But this is something major. And again, he's been the president for the club since 2013. So he's been a pillar that's been there for a long time. And sure, he hasn't had a lot of success, during his time as LA Galaxy president. But, right now there's still a lot of uncharted territory and things we don't really know about the future of the LA Galaxy. Which,
All right, another. I gotta get to this next one. Antonio Banderas. Celsius sucks. It's all about zero sugar rockstar. Okay, that's a good one, I suppose. I did say I would answer questions, but no, sorry. Celsius rules, dude. Like, it's if you go to grocery stores right now, like they have a whole like cooler full of it. So anyway, tangent. But yeah, Chris Klein. Let's get a little bit to a topic that I don't think we haven't really discussed a lot this season. We all know about the performance, but let's talk about revenue. All of the supporters, you all deserve an immense amount of credit because if there was anything that caused this to happen, it was revenue or the drop of revenue to be specific. And so for me, there was this vicious cycle. You had the supporters boycott, and the supporters boycott ruined the atmosphere. And then by ruining the atmosphere, you reduced the demand for tickets. Now, the team was terrible, which accelerated that demand. But at the end of the day, I mean, attendance this year, it's been reduced from, let's see, I got the numbers right here, 22,800 to 20,531. So that's a drop of 2,300 fans, roughly 10%, right? It started off with 23 for Vancouver, 22 for Seattle, El Trafico sold out, and then you have this drop of like 18,875 for Atlanta, 19,000 for Colorado, 16,000 for San Jose, 17,000 for Charlotte. So not only the attendance, but I actually have it just circled like sperm bank in capital letters. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about what the club is and what sponsors they're attracting and so on and so forth. But I do believe that Chris Klein and this front office really killed the scarcity for tickets. I mean, there's the discounted tickets that we hear about. There's the free tickets. There's an abundance of tickets on third-party sites. And what this all does is there's really no incentive to be a season ticket member. And so, again, we can talk about results on the field, but LAFC last year, they made $8 million in revenue. The Galaxy made $4 million in revenue. That might be why, when you think about Costa and why they didn't buy him out, because if you buy him out, you totally wiped out your revenue for the whole year. And yeah, so on the business side, if the Galaxy aren't winning and they're not bringing in fans, then all of a sudden they're not really a big brand anymore, are they, Alex?
Yeah, again, this Galaxy's organization in general has been, billed as this brand, as this globally known club. And again, if you go across the pond and people, you ask them, hey, name an MLS team, it's always going to be LA Galaxy. They built that. They've built that pedigree. But again, like you mentioned, when you look at the stadium, which I'm going to talk about again. One of the big things that I had to talk about a lot with other family members who are LA Galaxy season ticket holders was, I guess, the depreciation of the value of the season ticket. Like you mentioned, we've seen a lot of sales. We've seen a lot of tickets, I guess, being distributed free. And I have family members that are season ticket holders or were season ticket holders. And they'd come to me asking me these things, and I just tell them I don't know. But we'd come to the conclusion that yeah, you can kind of tell that there is a little bit of decline in the interest in the real value of kind of getting the season tickets. And then when you look at the secondary market, right, you see all these tickets going for sale for a lot cheaper. And again, my family members who were season ticket holders, they are no longer, because they just felt like that investment just wasn't worth it. And again, that they could be able to just go to games and still be able to save some money, get some good seats. Because again, Dignity Health Sports Park is a good stadium. And any seat in the house is a good seat there. So they were that was one of the reasons why they kind of left being season ticket members. And that's kind of
Yeah,
my thing. I'll share when it comes to that.
Alex, you hit the nail on the head. The Galaxy tickets are cheap, right? That's been the reputation that's sort of developed over the past years. Is when you want to go to a game where the team wins and scores goals and plays an exciting brand of soccer and the atmosphere is amazing. You go to an LAFC game. See, I cover both teams, so I can do this. You're it's a bit harder for you, but yeah, when when you go to a Galaxy game, it's a bit more about value and yeah, that's man. Just saying that out loud kind of depresses me. But okay, let's get to a few questions. Alex, maybe you can answer this one. We've been getting a lot of feedback about Jovan Karofsky. Does he have a future at this club beyond this season?
Well, we'll see. Honestly, that kind of goes with everybody in the organization once there is a new president, because they're going to be the ones calling the shots, if we're being honest. Obviously, Greg Vanny's mentioned numerous times that there's a 5-year plan, Will Kuntz. If you listen to Corner of the Galaxy's interview with them the other day, basically kind of reiterate that same message that he's there to support Greg Manny. He's there to help him out as best he can. And Will Kuntz is a contract guy. He's a guy that's going to scout players, that's going to look to find these loopholes within the MLS rules, and look to kind of acquire and get the Galaxy to be a smart team with the salary cap that is in MLS. When it comes to Johan Karofsky, when you look at the organization chart, uh, Greg Manny as sporting director is above Jovan Karofsky, and his role is listed as technical director. We know he's been involved in numerous deals with other players. One that a lot of people mention Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? How people say he was kind of crucial and kind of communicating with Zlatan and kind of convincing him to get over to this side of the pond. So again, it's really going to depend on what the next president wants. And like we said, with Chris Klein kind of being the first pillar to fall, right now you're kind of looking at Jovan Karofsky, another person who's been in the front office for a really long time. And it's gonna take some time to see what happens because, like I said, whoever comes in, whoever is the person calling the shots, which will likely be the new president, I believe that his fate will be up to that person.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question. Someone was asking. I've had a few questions asking if the social media team's okay. I think that's dancing on people's grave territory,
Yeah,
so we're
let's
not
just
going to
move
go there.
on to that.
Yeah, you can ask them yourself, man. Let's see. Moving on. Uh, you know, First of all, shout out Josh for getting Will Kuntz the other day on his podcast, which is really cool. We I was joking about how he had Sophie, and then so naturally Josh had to get his own big hitter. But yeah, let me tell you something. I'm a big Will Kuntz fan. Just I remember not too long ago. I think it was the I forget what match it was. It was a it was might have been an Austin one, but you know, we're in the press box. Will actually is over to our left, and he's got a clipboard. I don't know exactly what he's doing with it. Maybe I'll ask him one of these days. But yeah, I actually embraced him for the first time. I just asked him how he's doing. It was like halftime, and he gives me this look, and he goes, ask me after the game. And I'm sitting there laughing because I'm like, man, like, you know that's just what the Galaxy needs, a winner, a guy who, my impression was if the Galaxy lost that game, he would have been pissed. And, that's the type of guy you need around there. But that's just my personal thing. But anyway, when he was speaking with Josh, he had a few hints that suggested that maybe, uh, you know, I don't want to. Josh reported that he didn't know as of last night that Klein was going to be fired, right? But he's talking and he's giving us these really interesting tidbits. And the thing that was really intriguing for me is where he brings up, the fact that the Galaxy didn't sign any wingers, and he's talking about specifically how this team could have done that, but when it comes to front office work, there's no better way to kind of screw yourself than by signing a long-term contract or doing a panic buy and not just having everything in place. And for me, that was completely different from what we're used to with this Galaxy. All we're used to with this Galaxy is panic buys. Now, this is a situation where if the Galaxy don't make the Western Conference semifinals, Klein's out. And then you have a front office situation where they don't make a panic buy. What does that tell you? That tells you that someone somewhere is making decisions, and it's not Chris Klein. Now, Will Kuntz has always been an ambitious dude. I didn't expect this guy to join the Galaxy to be the number two of Chris Klein or Jovan Karofsky or anyone else. So it's going to be interesting. I think that Karofsky is going to have to prove that he deserves his job by the end of the season, and I think that his work is going to be compared directly to Will Kuntz's, and just I think that's bad for Karofsky, to be honest with you. His whole just body of work in a lot of ways is a big mystery, and then here you have a guy in Kuntz who shows up on Josh's podcast. I mean, has Jovan Karofsky in all the years that he's been with the Galaxy, has he ever shown up on Josh's podcast? I don't think so. And, it doesn't really bode well for him either. But it's interesting. The fact that he's in the organization, I think that's a plus.
Yeah, I will say this. if we're being honest right now, I think there's a lot of, although the season's not been too great, there are some reasons for optimism. I know some people may want to give up on the season already, and understandably so. This team is dealing with their worst start ever. But if you look at it, this team's going to have some new leadership. You're likely going to have two DP spots open as both Chicharito and Douglas Costa are in their final years of their contract. And
Douglas
again,
Costa.
there's like a lot of if they don't go out and make a panic buy or somebody just to get a string of results in the season, they'll have a lot of allocation money for next season. And I think on the bright side, if you want to kind of dust away this season, I understand why, because 2024 looks very bright just looking on paper. The fact that they have all these DP spots open, that the fact that they have the chance to have all this allocation money, I think it'll bode well for them. And I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of change that's going to be happening for the LA Galaxy, which will be good. But right now, they just got to be focused on turning the ship around. It is the 2023 MLS season.
Luis, is that you, man? Is that you over there?
It is. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you. Where'd you go? Where are you, man?
So I'm actually, since this was a very last minute thing, I was not able to get into a studio, so I decided to turn the camera off to hide my current location.
Are you sure you're not naked?
I can assure you, I am not naked.
I just had to check. All right. Luis from LA is our house. We asked a few of our journalism buddies to just jump in and have a word. How you doing, man? Glad you could join us. And what do you think of all this?
Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's obviously a day that will live in Galaxy infamy, right? I mean, the entire fan base is currently celebrating. It's something that many fans and supporters had been wanting and asking for. Hence the boycotts, and the hammer finally dropped. So reason to celebrate if you're a fan. And now it's it's a new day, and whatever whatever way the ship is steered now, it's we're hoping that it's someone that is a little bit more competent in the position. So I think there is a reason for optimism beginning now. The rebuild can start now, and as Alex said, there's a lot of allocation money, two DPs ready to go in 2024. So whoever does the rebuilding, they got a pretty good got a pretty good jump start.
Yeah, I did a lot of talking just to say that, Will Kuntz acted like he was a guy that was prepping for 2024, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is a weird kind of season. You're gonna have that Leagues Cup. You're gonna have all these teams being exhausted. The Galaxy have the summer transfer ban. Alex, we didn't even get to Douglas Costa and his not paying child support thing, man. I mean. I don't know. I hear someone who doesn't pay child support, and I don't know, scumbag jumps out at me. But I'm speechless. I don't know what to say about this guy. I'm hoping that there's some sort of clause that they can use to just kick him out on the street. Because I mean, like that's just pathetic, man.
Yeah, obviously this is another issue off the field and another, I guess, of the noise that the team has to deal with. Obviously, according to reports from Brazil, coming out of Brazil, there's an arrest warrant for Douglas Costa for not paying child support. Currently in the U.S., I believe since he's in the country in America, they can't extradite him to the country. He's, I guess, safe here in a way. But again, obviously, it's another thing this team has to kind of, you know, not necessarily. I don't want to say this is an issue you put under the rug, but this is definitely another distraction and something else that off the pitch that is a distraction for the team. And I have nothing else to comment on that besides it's all up to the legal systems now, and there's nothing we can do. We just know that there is an arrest warrant for him in Brazil for that reason.
Do you think either one of you guys think it's feasible for the club to maybe still release him at this point? Well, you're almost halfway through the season, so maybe the 5 million becomes 2.5 million. I mean, how does that work? Are they just stuck with him? I mean, what do you think, Luis?
Um, if obviously this is not a good look for the Galaxy. I think the Galaxy organization always kind of prided themselves with their brand, and having a technically a fugitive on the team isn't something that
That's what
looks
he
good.
is. He's a
Yeah,
fugitive.
that doesn't really look good for the brand. So not really sure what will happen there. Obviously, that's a team decision. The He hasn't really been performing to the level that I'm sure that they had hoped for. And to me, at this point, if you're cleaning house, you may as well just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It's going to be interesting how the future what the future holds for us, because I mean, there were a lot of people saying that Dan Beckerman is the issue. Greg Vanny. Now, there's a dude that's going to be under a lot of pressure now that Klein is gone, because he was the lightning rod for a lot of this criticism. But uh, what a lot of people were saying, and internally, there's a lot of people who feel that Vanny, and we even spoke about it on the pod last night. He's had 3 years. He had that amazing run with Ricky Puig, signing him and Brugman, and then towards the end of the tail end of the season, the Galaxy went on that run. They beat Nashville in the playoffs. They could have beaten LAFC if they were a little better on the day, and but outside of that run of form, Vanny, over the course of 3 years, is this a dude who has established himself as someone who is untouchable? No. There's quite a lot of people who believe that Vanny hasn't gotten the job done. And Alex, do you think that those criticisms are valid?
Yeah, I think in general, when you're talking about coaches, everything has to be looked at. Like I mentioned last night, Greg Manny during his 2.5 years now with the club, I wouldn't say there's been a moment aside from those last 10 games of 2022 where I'm like, okay, here's some consistency. Here is an image that we like to see. Here is a style of play that we think will work. And 2021 very inconsistent, up and down. We all remember that year missing the playoffs on decision day. 2022, if we go, before Ricky Puig comes here, very inconsistent, up and down. The Galaxy team was kind of in the mid-table of the Western Conference. You saw a little bit of potential, but again, you didn't really know if it would be held and captivated there until the last part of the season. This year, again, this team's just unlucky. Look at the underlying numbers. This team's underperforming. It's expected goals by 10. The expected goal says they should have 20 goals when this season they have 10. Their finishing has not been there. They're not lethal in the final third. They haven't been able to get any consistency from Chicharito, from Tyler Boyd, from Dejan Joveljic, and that's really hindering this team a lot. I know I'll probably get grilled for this, and I do see a lot of, I can see a little bit of, hey, what the Galaxy's trying to do, and they're kind of doing the right things to do it. But right now, this team just doesn't have the players to do so. I think I like Greg Vanny. I think he's a great coach. When we talk to him, he gives us as much insight as possible. When I ask him a question or any of the other reporters ask him something, just right now, this team just isn't. I wouldn't say it's not built, because we've seen this team. The players fit the style, the system, but the players right now just are not performing to the level that we expected, and you're seeing that when you look at the underlying numbers.
Luis, Vanny, criticism, valid or not?
I think it is valid. However, I do feel that all the off the field noise that was going on, it's now gone, and I think everyone now is focused on the same goal. And now it's okay. Let's finish the season strong. Let's get some points. Let's get some wins. It's no longer a divided fan base. They're not, you know, they never were against the team per se, but I think everyone can now move in the same direction, and I think that will take a positive psychological toll on Vanny and the players, and that they may improve um, their play from here on out, since that distraction is now gone. But the criticism is there. There was a lot of criticism about the the tactics that Vanny used, the substitutions or lack thereof in certain situations in the game when you're in need of a goal, but he subs in defenders. It was at times a little puzzling as to why he was doing the things that he was doing, and ultimately having the team prepared does fall on Greg Manny. Do I think that this team is underperforming grossly. They are not wooden spoon contenders. This team was not built for the wooden spoon. Are they MLS Cup contenders? No, but at the very least, they should be dark horses, I guess, with the team that they have on paper.
That's a good one.
But
Yeah.
I personally thought that they would improve on the way they ended the season in 2022. Although I do find myself being critical of that unbeaten streak because there were a lot of points that were dropped during that unbeaten streak. They were dropping a lot of points at home. They were drawing to teams that they probably should have beat.
Yeah, there are a lot of ties. Yeah.
The Panenka herd around the world was was during that unbeaten streak, and they dropped points because of that while they were chasing a playoff spot. So the unbeaten streak was, I always said asterisks because there was a lot of points that were dropped during that time period, but it was something that you could definitely build on because they had momentum. But obviously they haven't had any sort of momentum this season, but I do believe it's because of what was going on, and now they can refocus and everyone's on the same page. I think there should be an uptick. I think at this point you may very well save yourself from the wooden spoon, but again, this is going to fall on Vanny and the players and how they respond from here on out. And so, but I think there's with what transpired today, there's obviously from the fans' perspective, there's room for optimism as to things can start turning around now.
I would like to give a round of applause to the chat room. You guys have been great this evening. Thank you guys so much for not only just tuning in tonight, but tuning into our podcast in general. Our numbers are rising. Our subscription numbers are rising. Everything's on the up and up. So thank you. I'm sad we don't have super chats yet, but you're always welcome to just directly hand me money at the game. That'd be nice. And that way the government wouldn't keep track of it. So, double win. You give Alex money too, although that might look weird. But and then Luis, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Luis from LA is our house. What, Alex? Don't.
Yeah, they just.
I'm just kidding. This was a nice unscripted show. Usually I've got like 5 or 6 pages of this. I've got like a half a page and some doodles. So, but yeah, Galaxy family, Galaxy community. I'm glad that this is all over because me and Sophie and Alex were all saying the same thing. It's depressing going to games and just having no atmosphere and no friends and no fans and there was just this like suspended kind of like, when's this going to end? Every game, atmosphere, fans, atmosphere, game, Galaxy lose. Like it's been a very depressing season. So hang in there, everybody. You're about 3 or 4 weeks away from going to a home game. It's going to be amazing. We're going to see you all there. And then also there's a community cup coming up June 11th. There's going to be a bunch of teams playing at the new Galaxy Park. Look into that. It's going to be really cool. But other than that, have a good night. I'm Mike Gray. I'm the columnist for both LA Galaxy and LAC for the Striker. Faithful co-host Alex Ruiz.
Keys to the game tomorrow morning against RSL. Don't forget to read that. Got that cooking up for tomorrow morning.
That's right. The podcast is our free content, but if you want to know what me and Alex, and by the way, our new LAFC beat writer Justin Ruderman, if you want to know what all of us are kind of thinking in our noggins right here all day long, subscribe to the Striker. It's $5 a month. It's cheap. You can hear from all of us. You keep both of us in a job, and that's the best way to support us, other than handing me money at the game. So
yes, and keys to the game are a literal outline to what the Galaxy are going to do right or what they're going to do wrong. If you've been reading it for the last month and a half now.
Yeah, he's pretty good with the predictions, dudes and dudettes. So thank you so much. And any other comments before we go? One beer, now the hard work begins.